What's going on, car nerds? Welcome back to the Fuel for Thought podcast. This is episode 29. Kevin, what's going on today? First of all, introduce yourself. I kind of already did, but...
I'm Kevin. Hello.
I'm Jay. All right, and what are we going to talk about?
We're going to expose Ferrari for one of the most well-known, or maybe not so well-known, scams they pulled.
And is this really a surprise? I mean, we've talked a lot about Ferrari and kind of all the mischievous things they get up to with both their selling process, but also just kind of how shady they are.
Yeah, and looking into this, it kind of makes sense. Their whole business practice and things they pull behind the scenes that people are maybe not aware of.
Yeah.
So the thing we're going to talk about is, we all know the Ferrari Enzo is one of the most legendary cars they've ever built. They claimed to have 399 built, but in reality, we're talking about not quite double, but over 100 examples more that have been confirmed, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, especially if you consider, like, if you're an investor or someone who bought this knowing that it was valuable because it was limited production, this is probably going to piss you off.
It would, for sure, because a lot of these collectors view them as assets because, limited supply and demand, and that kind of changes the price, and over time, more people want to buy these cars, so they're willing to pay more money. But now that we know there's a lot more being built, it kind of messes up the price, and, it's... if I was an owner, I would be pissed.
Yeah.
Especially... maybe if you bought it new, okay, sure, it's with 600,000 new back in early 2000s. But if, let's say, you bought one 5 years ago and you paid auction prices, which is probably $2 to $3 million, and now you find out there's 100 more examples, it would warrant a lot of negative feelings towards Ferrari. Because if we look at it, the limited numbers or the halo cars that Ferrari builds, we're talking about the 2AA GTO, F40, F50, Enzo, and then now the LaFerrari. The Enzo was supposed to be the lowest numbered car ever built.
The most special, I guess.
Yeah.
In terms of production number.
Because it was, built after the founder, Enzo Ferrari.
Right.
They were only supposed to build 399, and the next runner-up would be the F50, which there was 400 examples.
Okay, so it'd be tied if even one more was built than they said.
Yeah. And technically they already did that because they built 399 to customers, and then they built one more, so the 400th example. So, and that one went to the Pope.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, as I don't know, it's charity. I'm sure they got a tax break or something.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, I believe there's a plaque on the Enzo, and it says 399, one of 399. But even then, they built 400, so really it's one of 400.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned this to me before, but I think normally if you have a limited number, it'll say which number of that number it is. So it'll be like 4 of 399, 5 of 399 for all the examples in the pool. But in this case, it just says 1 of 399. So again, It kind of shows that it's not actually limited. It's just 1 of 399. It doesn't feel as special, I think, too.
Yeah, and it's in a way, it's kind of to hide the numbers, because something similar happened to the Murcielago SVs, because those were limited numbers, and thanks to the internet and you can share information, 2 pictures of 2 different Mercy SVs were floating around with the same number, so it was 37 of however many they were built, and that kind of caused confusion in the community because why is there's not 70 examples? Let's say there's 70 built. There's clearly not 70, there's 71. Turns out one of them was a fake SV.
Oh, okay.
And was just just built to look like one. But in this case with the Enzo, you can't tell because it's always the same one of.
Exactly. So that's almost like their sneaky way of actually getting away with it, because nobody's going to be like, "Oh, yours says 1 of 399," because everyone says that. So they can't really get away with, knowing that there's 2 of the same, like with the SV example.
Yeah, and what ended up happening is, I bet Ferrari never saw this happening, especially when the Enzo was built. They never thought that the communities would pull all the VINs of the Enzos, because we're talking about 400 VINs. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And put it all together and then see, what was matching. So we have proof. It's all over the internet. Right now we're citing three different websites that have way more than 400 VINs for the Enzo.
So what are some examples? Like, do they range a lot? Like, is there like a number that's constant between all these websites, or are there different figures?
They're all different. So we have my personal favorite, Exclusive Car Registry. This one has 416 cars.
Okay, so that's already 16 more than is quoted.
Yeah, and these are all unique VINs.
Okay.
We have VinWiki, which is another database for VIN numbers. They have 493.
Okay, that's getting a little ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's way out the ballpark. And then Wikipedia itself claims on their article that there's 498 examples built. This one could be skewed with the FXX, but even then, minus 30 FXX, you're still at way more than the 399.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear, regardless of what your source is, unless it's Ferrari themselves, that there were more than 399 built.
Yeah, so all of these, you can factor in prototypes. There's 3 prototypes that we know of, and then you can also include the one-off P4-5.
Right.
So sure, you can discount another 4 off of those, but we're still above 399, which is to me concerning, because if a company builds and says something, claims something, clearly their worth isn't worth nothing at this point.
Even the Exclusive Car Registry number, like 416, even if all of the sources said 416, it's still bullshit, because they're still made 16 or 17 more cars than they were supposed to. So the fact that it's going up into almost 500, it's like that's crazy. Like, that means that the F50 and honestly even the LaFerrari is not, they're at the same rareness level, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So in reality, the F50 is, even then, can we trust their numbers?
Exactly. That's the other thing. I wonder what VinWiki has for, and the Exclusive Car Registry for VIN numbers for the F50. Maybe there's 700. Who knows?
Yeah, because that's the thing that happened with the F40. Initially, they were going to do a limited number of cars, but the car was so well received that Ferrari just saw a big paycheck and was like, let's just make as many as we can. And they ended up making 1,300 F40s, which is, to me, one of the most insane things, because as you can see, it's our poster, it's our profile pictures, because you think of the F40 as such a special car, but then you look at these numbers and it's like, there's a lot of them, and they're trading $2 to $3 million. For a while, the F40 was more expensive than the F50.
Yeah,
which is very interesting to think about.
Even if you added up 1,300 F40s, if they're trading at $1 million a piece, that's over $1 billion worth of F40s out there. 1.3 billion. That's crazy. Yeah, but I think like you said, this is honestly probably one of my favorite cars, and I think a lot of people can relate to that, but you never really think about the uniqueness of it behind the scenes. You just think, because obviously it is an older car, it's from the 80s, obviously there's going to be some that were wrecked in crashes and burned to the ground, whatever, but then we even get into the idea that they're repurposing VINs, right? That's also something they're doing.
Yeah, so this is, again, in air quotes, in theory, because it's never been proven, probably never will be. But the rumors are that whenever a customer or someone crashes an Enzo and totals it, if it's repairable, they'll repair it. You can bring it to the factory and they'll do a restoration. But if it's totaled, Ferrari will buy the pieces back through some dealers and, third parties, so you don't know it's Ferrari exactly. And then they either will use those parts or trash them and then rebuild a whole new Ferrari Enzo, use the VIN from the crash car, and then rebrand that Enzo as, the old Enzo. So in theory, you're not removing the number. So there's 399, you crash one, 398, but no, you're back where you started. And
that's already the first thing. It's even if they were giving these cars new VINs after they crashed, that would still not account for the 496 of them.
Yeah.
So that's the crazy thing. It almost seems like they are doing that, but they're not, or so it's rumored, which is even crazier. So that means they did purposely build more.
Yeah.
They didn't just replace them after they were crashed or burned to the ground. They actually just produced more than they said they were going to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're just liars, I guess.
I mean, they're a business, right? They're gonna make money somehow. And the thing that like, I guess bothers most people is nobody's really speaking out about this, like big profile Ferrari collectors or anyone really, because if you think about it, Ferrari has a tendency of being lawsuit heavy and kind of suppressing, because so the whole hierarchy to get a Halo car in the first place is complicated.
Yeah.
And you have to be handpicked by Ferrari. So if you're some billionaire guy and you want the latest and greatest, you're never going to speak bad about Ferrari because you know the next allocation you're not going to get it.
Exactly.
So that's
it's really like turning into a cult at this point. It's like, members stay quiet, they keep their secrets, everything just goes smoothly, and people who talk shit about them are smaller fish that don't really care, that nobody really cares about them, like us, obviously. And, like, they don't really care if we get an allocation or not because we're not high profile enough. So,
yeah,
kind of just, it works in their favor.
It does, yeah. And it's kind of unfortunate. And apparently there's like rumors about like journalists and other people trying to speak out and providing proof are being silenced. There's even rumors about like mafia hits or the mafia, paying visits to journalists and telling them to keep shush or else their family's gone. So it's some serious stuff.
Yeah, it goes a lot deeper than I think that we think it goes.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's just really sad because it's such an awesome brand. There's so much heritage. There's so much racing spirit in there, and just so much, like Pininfarina, like the whole design of everything, like the whole Italian history is fantastic. But stuff like this just ruins a brand, honestly. It's really upsetting.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, you'd think it's once and done thing. They learn from the mistake, but no. There's even more recent examples, like the 599 GTO, the F12 TDF. They're all numbered cars. The 599, there were supposed to be 599 examples. On exclusive car registries, there's upwards of 715.
It's insane.
Same with the F12 TDF. So really, like, it's just a weird world where we're accepting these BS claims about limited numbers. And I was just for fun browsing the like most expensive cars in Canada, and I saw the 458 Speciale Aperta, which very limited numbers, was selling for like 1.2 million. I got to wondering, like, okay, sure it's limited, but is it really? Like, do they have double the amount they claim? And some poor person is going to pay, well, not poor, they're rich, but some
rich person is poor because they thought they were going to...
They're going to pay 1.2 million in the hopes that it goes up in the future, the value-wise. But then here they are, if it gets exposed and becomes common knowledge that there's twice the amount claimed, then he loses all his money.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about this in terms of like the stock market, right? Like, say if a director at a company is just hiding half the shares and then the rest is sold to the public, it's the same idea. Like, realistically, this should be, I mean, it's not technically an investment vehicle, but it should be rendered as illegal, which I think it is. But like, this should be taken more seriously. If someone were to commit like securities fraud like that, people would take that very seriously because it is an investment, and a lot of people use it as an investment. And the fact that they are just fudging these numbers and like screwing with the actual value of these cars, because obviously, the first law of economics, supply and demand, govern the price of things, then this is, it's complete bullshit.
Yeah. Market manipulation.
Yeah, that's literally what it is.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I mean, what are you going to do, like you said?
It's never going to get proven.
Yeah, and honestly, if there's more F12 TDFs than is said that there are, or 812 TDFs, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah.
But for the other cars, shame.
It is. But I guess hopefully the only thing that we can hope out of this is it becomes knowledge crashes the market for used Ferraris or limited number Ferraris.
So they're like $20,000 and then we buy them.
Yeah, and then they're affordable.
Yeah.
But while we're talking about the Enzo, why not look into some of the cool things that have been spawned mostly from the aftermarket side of things. Yes.
Interesting choice of language.
Yeah, spawned or
playing too much Minecraft.
I do enjoy Minecraft, yeah. But some cool one-offs that we have personally seen or just floating around the internet. And the one I'm going to start with, we've already mentioned it when we explored the world of Gumballa.
Yes, that was a fun episode.
Yeah.
The crashed ones and all kinds of stuff.
The whole like shady side of the company.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a fun episode, definitely go back and watch that one because
that was a good conversation, and honestly it was crazy. Just talking about how deep that runs. We've come into some very interesting things lately, like even the Sultan of Brunei's collection, and then our last episode, which was the that white Porsche collection.
Yeah.
So definitely go listen to that one too. Yeah, if you guys haven't already. But yeah, some really interesting things in the car world have come to light recently.
Yeah, it's just a crazy thing. Wherever there's money, there's going to be power struggles and shady stuff happening. But this is the Gumballa MiG U1. It is definitely the most crazy Enzo by far. It's completely rebodied. It's not like anything we've ever really seen. Really, it's like a spaceship. That's the only way to describe it. It's so sharp and so, I don't know, so mysterious too. So initially Gumballa, was in the tuning world, got his hands on an Enzo. It was like, let's build a prototype, let's make this thing awesome. There was talks about twin turboing it. So he made this concept, completely like broke I guess at the time it wasn't really the internet, but like blew up. Everyone loved it. And then what ended up happening is they were going to make 25 examples, but then the whole thing about him being kidnapped, extorted for money, and then eventually killed happened. So that project was just scrapped. That was really kind of the end for a couple years of Gumballa.
It's never a not exciting story about these things.
Yeah.
But you don't have that with your Honda Civic. That just
no.
You don't get these kinds of stories, unfortunately.
Yeah. But yeah, they made one example. I think it's in Dubai in a private collection.
Of course.
And just like any cool car at this point.
Yeah, it's too bad, really. But I mean, would you take this over an FXX? Like if they produce more versions, obviously.
Well, the FXX is not road legal. So
That's
if
true.
it was, I think I would still take this thing because it's just one of one. Right?
That's true. Yeah. But say if they did produce like same number as FXX, just like body styling and how it looks, would you prefer it over the FXX?
That's a tough one.
This thing, honestly, it's reminiscent a little bit of the F40, like the wing and everything on it. So that's kind of why I'm starting to like it too. Even like the deep concave wheels too. Like even here you can see it's like similar wheels as this. So.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the cool one. Another one is some rich dude in Monaco has an Enzo, which comes to no surprise. Everyone has a cool car there.
Yep.
But he did just a small modification, put a FXX style wing on it. But the cool thing is, like, this guy just drives this car all the time. He's always, every summer you can count on seeing him in Monaco just whipping an Enzo, which is, pretty cool.
Just as daily.
Pretty Chad, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's pretty Chad.
This one's another cool one. It's a complete carbon fiber with red interior Enzo. So it's been completely rebuilt from scratch. And it is owned by some lord or some very rich person in Mexico. And my first thought was like, oh, this dude's probably a cartel or something.
Yeah, typical bias.
Yeah, well, I've been there. I've been to Mexico. It's not very wealthy.
It's very concentrated in certain areas, I guess.
Yeah, but he's in fact not a cartel member, or at least we know of, and some real estate guru or something. He was like half of Mexico. But this guy's actually pretty cool. His car collection is very impressive. We might do an episode on it at some point. Every single thing is like unique and just like one off. So it'd be cool to dive in.
Yeah, it seems like everyone who owns an Enzo, or at least like, owns a cool version of it, has some good taste. Like they either drive it every day or they have some cool like one-off version of it. It kind of seems like they took it into their own hands. They're like, okay, this is a sweet car. How can I make it my own?
Yeah.
Which is kind of unique.
Yeah, and well, the best example is the crazy story of the most mile Enzo.
Ooh, yeah, this is good.
This one is insane. So the owner bought the Enzo new and was like, he saw people collecting it, and he's like, I'm gonna do the complete opposite. I will put the most miles on an Enzo ever seen. So right off the bat, he let Car and Driver use the Enzo as like a long-term road test, which they usually only do with like simple cars, like Civics or whatever, minivans. But they alone put like 20,000 miles or some crazy number on this Enzo, and then just drove it around. He was part of a rally at some point, which was like a top speed run in the desert. And unfortunately, at this time, he crashed. He like hit a bump, went airborne, and just completely demolished the car. I don't know how he survived. Like we're looking at a picture right now.
We'll put it up on screen right now. But this, it does not look like someone would walk away from that.
Yeah, like every single panel has been ripped off. He crashed at 206 miles per hour.
This is reminiscent of the. Did you ever watch like Drive to Survive on Netflix with the Formula One?
No.
Like Grosjean, he's like one of these drivers, and his like Formula One car, he crashed it and it lit on fire, and he was in there for a couple minutes, and he walked out of it.
Damn.
Like I don't know, like he like crashed it so hard too, and the thing was gone pretty much and lit on fire.
Really?
He just walked out.
That's
such
insane.
a Chad move too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. Like sometimes you look at these crashes and you're like, oh, he's dead for sure, and then you hear stuff like this. It's like, I don't get it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, he didn't walk away. He was in the hospital it took him a year to recover.
So he crawled away more, but
I think he was airlifted in a coma or something like that. It was bad, but
maybe not the same situation as Grosjean, but
yeah.
Anyway, he survived. That's all that matters.
He did, yeah. And then even like while recovering, he was still in love with the car. So from the hospital, he began the rebuilding process of the car.
Just calling people.
Yeah, just calling people, like doing designs and stuff. So he rebuilt it pretty much similar to stock, except this time it came with a roll cage, a removable roof, which makes it the only convertible Enzo in the world.
Pretty cool.
And then, of course, the most important one, he put twin turbos on it.
That's insane.
Yeah, so this thing pushes 900 horsepower.
Oh my god.
But I can't wrap my head around the logic. Like, you're in the hospital recovering from almost dying, going too fast, and then you're like, you know what, let's go faster.
Yeah, and then using that same car, that car would have probably traumatized me,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's crazy. Even just driving in general probably would traumatize you after an accident like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I just spun out in the parking lot. I didn't want to drive home. But he then went and broke the record for the fastest Enzo. He wasn't driving himself.
He finally came to his senses.
Yeah, but this was on the salt flats, and he did 237 miles per hour.
That's insane.
It's
or like
crazy.
what, 380, something like that.
Yeah.
Kilometers.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's insane. Yeah.
And then he just kept driving over the years. Now, from what I can read on the internet, he's a bit too old to keep driving.
Yeah.
So he's letting just someone, I guess a family friend, just drive it around. And last year, it broke 100,000 miles.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that's 160,000 kilometers on a Ferrari Enzo.
And that's not low compression. That's a high compression engine. That's impressive as hell.
I wonder if it's probably not the same engine because it's got
that's
it
true.
crashed. But
is that original miles?
Well, so it was rebuilt after the crash. So it's like, kind of like, is it the same car at this point?
Yeah, I'm curious if it's 100,000 miles from when they rebuilt it.
Oh no, from
the start. Okay,
yeah.
I guess that's not true to the actual spec, but hey, it's a thought that counts. I
Yeah,
guess.
like it's still impressive even if you split in half, so 50,000 miles
That's true.
on each engine or each powertrain.
Yeah,
That's still impressive.
I guess we'll see. Hopefully, there's an update of how long it lasts before it breaks down again.
Yeah, I would love to see the repair bills for this thing. Cause like
or how much has been sunk into it. It's probably insane at this point.
Yeah, like over the years, just like tires and brakes and all that.
You spent millions on this thing.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
it's impressive. It's someone that clearly was passionate about the Enzo.
Yeah, I kind of like that though. It's cool. It's a cool story. You know, it just shows like the love for and the passion for, of the best of Ferrari has to offer. Yeah, and that's honestly such a big thing in the car world.
Yeah. Now, our favorite.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about this one?
Sure. Yeah. So this is actually a really cool one. So we had this this car dealership. It was more of like a specialty car dealer out in Alberta, Canada. And this is in Calgary specifically, a shop called Crazier Auto. So the owner's name's Zahir, right? I think it's Zahir.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he's a guy from the Middle East, but he had like this performance shop, and they had a shop, but they had this Ferrari Enzo, and they decided to kind of make it look like an FXX. They put an FXX style wing on it to make it look kind of cool. And then, really interestingly, they brought it on a rally to Newfoundland, and the driver somehow got the car into the ocean.
Yeah.
He drove it into the ocean, lost control in a corner, and just totaled it into the water pretty much.
There's actually a video on YouTube of it.
Yeah, we'll link that because that's probably interesting to watch. And yeah, so it completely flooded it. But they decided not to just get rid of it. They pulled it out of the water, completely rebuilt it, and built it into their own version of the FXX, completely redoing it, making it look really cool. And they called it the ZXX after Crazier Auto, I guess. And yeah, this thing just looks ridiculous. It's yellow and white, and we've seen it in person.
Yeah.
It's very well done, like very close in spec to an actual FXX. It's really cool. And yeah, it's actually road legal, which is the cool thing, because it's not like the FXX, you can only drive it on the track, but this guy, like Zahir, he actually brings it to local car events in Alberta too. Yeah. So people kind of shit their pants when they see this thing. They think it's an FXX, but
it's so loud too. It's
insane. It's so sick.
I don't know how it's street legal because it doesn't have mirrors. It has the cameras on the side. It's probably like just a straight pipe. Yeah. That's how loud it is. And
he definitely just kept the Enzo spec and like registered it like that.
Yeah, because technically it's an Enzo, but it's not anymore.
Yeah, I guess the VIN still reflects that it's just an Enzo. So
yeah, so that's probably one of the coolest Enzo, and in my opinion. I mean, we're maybe biased because we've seen it in person and got to, see it at quite a few events. But yeah, in my opinion, it's the coolest Enzo ever made.
Yeah, very cool. Even just the like the headlights, it's kind of got the vibe of like the older Ferraris, how the inside of the headlights the same color as the body. Yeah, I really like that too. It's like the attention to detail on it is really well done.
Yeah, and then speaking about the FXX, this is another, essentially the track version of the Enzo. Everything's stripped, and unlike some of the other, I guess, track variants, which are like bodied around the car and then put a wing on it, the FXX was like completely rebodied, so it's almost like it looks like a complete different car.
It does. Yeah.
And this was the first, I think one of the first XX program, which we've talked about in previous episodes. It's weird, like you buy the car but Ferrari keeps it and then they decide when you go to the track and use it, which is like it makes no sense.
Yeah, it's like pretty much like you're renting it from them, but you paid full price.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
kind of wild.
It's interesting what rich people do with their money, but I guess it's an experience. You buy an experience.
Exactly, and they cater to you too. So obviously, when you bring it to the track, everything's set up for you. You have a team that like makes sure everything's working and the tires that are good, gas is good.
Yeah, so they built 30 examples of these, and like we mentioned, they're track only, so you can't bring them on the road. And yeah, it's sounds insane. Doesn't look like the Enzo.
Can you imagine driving one of these on the track though? That thing would be absolutely wild because they sound because like even just like listening to like the Zonda R, this thing is probably I haven't actually heard it on the track, but I'm pretty sure it's similar. But like these things just have nothing. It's just you can hear the cylinders exploding right out of the exhaust. Yeah, like it's so fucking loud. And honestly, if you are driving this thing on the track, like it probably feels so rigid too because it's built for the track. It's not able to be driven on the road, so they focused all their energy and all their design and all their engineering on the track focus. Yeah. So everything is just optimized. So I feel like that would be a really cool experience to maybe even drive like passenger side on one, but obviously driving it on the track would be insane. Yeah. So if you are lucky enough to do that in your life, you consider yourself very lucky because they are very limited. And yeah, if you know someone rich enough, hey, connect your boys.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Experience of a lifetime.
That'd be insane.
So yeah, that's
cool. Yeah, anything else you want to add?
No.
Cool. All right. So yeah, keep your eyes out for limited Ferrari models and do your homework before you buy a limited model.
Yeah.
And yeah, so interesting light on Ferrari. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. That was episode 29. If we get sued, it's okay. We'll just buy Lambos. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Defamation, I guess. All right. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Goodbye.
Goodbye.